So here's Shoe0nHead. So this one's 21 minutes compared to, I think it was 26 minutes in the next one. So we shall see what we shall see. And yeah. Okay. I will be giving my thoughts, I suppose, throughout this. I guess I don't really need to say that, but I'll give some of my thoughts. And I will try and not make this a 3-hour-long video again. Because, yeah, that was a rather long time period to just be talking about one thing. Anyway, let's go.
I regret to inform you the men are not okay. That's right, folks. The men are not okay. The men have no friends.
Okay. Okay. Men have fewer friends than ever and it's harming their health. The male friendship recession is having dire consequences. By Aubrey Hirsch? Okay.
No girlfriend.
Lonely single men.
No college.
A generation of American men gave up on college. I just feel lost. The number of men enrolled at 2 to 4 year colleges have fallen behind women by record levels in a widening education gap across the US. Well, I can kind of understand that. I also, with college, while I'm doing it, I don't necessarily see the point in it at times. So I can understand how people are observing this, how some men would be seeing this, but I think it would be similar to pretty much everyone. A universal experience, I guess.
Education, no money.
Are men too poor to date nowadays? That is very true. I am also extremely poor. However, yeah, I am extremely poor.
Are breaking their legs and
Oh, good God, that is terrible.
inserting metal rods into their bones to be a few inches taller, and listening to AI Batman help them overcome their pornography addictions.
You deserve real love.
Turns
I'm sorry, that's kind of funny. I do listen to some things, like Mr. Rogers or something. However, Mr. Rogers is real and he is actually talking to you through the thing, but through the screen. So I do listen to things like that, but never listened to anything like this. But I can understand why this might help someone, but it's kind of ridiculous. But I can understand reasoning why it would help someone if they wanted to, if they listen to this, because it's someone that you look up to, someone that you think, yes, he's fake, but you can listen to someone that you think of as a hero and an importance, and it gives you a purpose because he's telling you, you do deserve this. And that helps. Or like Mr. Rogers says that he likes you just the way you are. That's awfully helpful because you often feel lost and alone. Then you have this person telling you that they like you for the way you are. And if you've never heard that before, yes, it's very helpful.
Turns out the society that was built by and allegedly for men has indeed let them down. Now you might be thinking, oh look, another boo-hoo poor men video by Shoe0nHead.
Well, she does put out a lot of videos on topics pertaining to men. She also does videos pertaining to women as well. Because I think the 2 most recent videos, potentially? I may be incorrect about that, but one is dating advice for women, which was taking 1950s dating advice and transposing it to modern day. That one's very entertaining. And then I think there was another one, The Women Are Not Okay, I think was what it was called. And it was similar to this, but for women, so.
Yes! And if you have a problem with that, tune into literally anything else.
I completely support that. The man question.
Men are in a crisis, and it seems nobody really cares. And the people who do care just seem like the people who want to sell them shit. Not me. I'm different. So before we get into this, let's quickly get into today's sponsor.
That was slick.
Today's sponsor is Holzkern. Holzkern is a young Austrian company that designs unique crafted watches and jewelry made from all natural materials. Their high-quality timepieces come in various designs for both men and women, making
I do like some of these watches.
them the perfect
I admittedly don't wear watches, but if I was to get one, these ones look very nice.
gift for any occasion. They're a great blend of function and fashion, and overall I just think they look very classy, especially the men's watch collection. I was pretty impressed with the silver casing and blue marble dial of the Naturalist watch, which made for a great gift for my boyfriend. He especially loved the casual yet stylish appearance, making it an ideal choice to wear both at work and at home. I'm also really happy with the watch I picked out. It's made from black and white marble and features
That's cool that they used marble for it. That's cool.
a nice black leather bracelet that just feels so comfy. They also create elegantly crafted earrings, very unique handbags, sunglasses, and necklaces, like this rose marble elevation necklace. It makes a really memorable and unique gift for a loved one. All of their products have a 24-month warranty, and ordering online is super easy with free shipping to the US and most EU countries within 2 to 5 days.
Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's probably German? Judging by the name, but I don't know.
So if you want to get yourself a good quality watch and support the channel, I highly recommend checking out their store and clicking the link in the description below. Use my special code Shoe15 at checkout that will give you 15% off for all products store-wide. So go to the link down below and choose your own unique piece of nature. Thank you Shoe0nHead for sponsoring this video, and thank you the viewer, as always, for not skipping the ad.
No problem. I will say those watches did look pretty dang cool. I would if I wore watches, I'd probably get one of those. Smirkanish? So someone from CNN.
Why are men and boys struggling? And what should we do about it?
A few new studies have come out that have shown that young men are more lonely and single than ever before. But it's not just men. The women and children too. It's predicted 45% of women will be—
Good God, that's a lot of people. 45. So, in theory, if we are matching, that's everyone gets a partner. 45% of women are expected to be single and childless. At least 45% of men as well, between the ages 25 and 44. I will be 30 at that time, so that'll be interesting. 1.2% every year.
single and childless by 2030. But according to the media,
by 2030, 45% of prime working age women between 25 and 44 in the US will be single, the largest share in history, up from 41% in 2018, according to a 35-page study titled The Rise of the She-Economy. That is a ridiculous name. By the investment bank Morgan Stanley. In total, the single woman population will grow by an average annual rate of 1.2% through 2030 to 77.5 million, compared with a 0.8% growth rate for the overall US population. Which I guess means that there's no children being born.
this is a good thing.
However, we are also getting immigration, which does bolster the growth of the population. Not necessarily for US, because I don't really know how US immigration things work, but for, say, here in Canada, we are expecting roughly around 1 million people every year, which is an awful lot of people. And which is a reason why we're having a housing crisis currently.
The she-economy is booming, as they say. And meanwhile,
the she-economy is good for these retailers. Undoubtedly things that cater specifically to women's needs, such as dresses or or shops that sell things like that, is what I'm assuming.
men being single is treated like this.
New study explains why some single men are having a hard time finding a new partner.
Some of the music that they listen to speaks very derogatory.
Right. Yep.
I somehow don't think that the music that people listen to is really affecting the way whether people have boyfriends, girlfriends, or anything like that. Because Cardi B or Taylor Swift or something like that, I know a lot of people who listen to those things. I personally don't. However, I'm also not really interested in being in a relationship in any way, shape, or form. So I might not be the best person to be trying to counteract these thoughts. So,
Men, stop listening to that derogatory music.
personally, if someone told me that my music was derogatory and told me to stop listening to it in order to get a girlfriend, I would tell them to go pound sand, because I'd rather listen to my music than have someone who doesn't like my music. I don't listen to that many genres. In fact, most of the things that I listen to are from Japan. Most of the music that I listen to, or they're covers from singers or by singers. So I don't generally listen to actual songs, or I listen to like Sabaton, which is obviously super cool, about war and battles and really cool people. So I don't know how that music is derogatory towards women, so
then maybe you won't be single. I don't know, I think men and women being single and lonely kind of shows there might be something wrong with society. Perhaps we should address this, not just wave it off as empowering or pathetic. According to several different articles, I love how that's my source. I read about it on the internet.
Admittedly, that's pretty much everyone's article sources nowadays, but I agree.
Research shows that people from individualist countries show a greater sense of loneliness. This is linked to socioeconomic development, increased education, a shift towards white-collar jobs, and urbanization. Japan also has an issue with loneliness. In fact, they have a whole movement of people.
Hikikomori, I think it's how it's said. Hikikomori? Anyway, yes, I do know about them, because I've thought it was interesting, or would be interesting to potentially do.
They call the hikikomori.
Hikikomori.
Did I say that right?
You might have. I don't know. I'm terrible with pronouncing
Basically,
things.
postmodern hermits. Mostly young men who completely withdraw from society, secluding themselves in their rooms for months and years at a time. In 2010, there was an estimated 700,000 hikikomori in Japan. And today, it's estimated to be about 1.55 million.
That is a crazy amount increase. I have considered doing something like this, being like a hermit and just living inside my room or whatever. Obviously, I can't do that, but I have considered doing that. The main reason why I couldn't do that is because I have no money. So, if I had money, I would probably do something like that. Never leave, never go anywhere. But, obviously, it's not necessarily healthy. Only thing that stops me is the money problem. And I don't know how they combat the money problem, so I'm gonna assume she doesn't go. She's alright, you don't always agree with her, but her videos are usually well researched. Yeah, exactly, that's my reasoning as well. I enjoy watching people, even if I don't agree with them all the time. But if they do well-researched videos, it's generally interesting to listen to and then hearing their point of view. I only don't like it if someone gives me a point of view and then refuses to listen to my side of the argument. Admittedly, she will never hear my side of this argument, but it's fun to do, at the very least.
And because of things like this, people aren't having babies, so Japan's population has been in a sharp decline since 2011. It's gotten so bad that Japan even produces videos of live-action women staring into the camera to help the hikikomori learn to cope with eye contact and reintegrate them back into society. So basically...
Sorry, I'm terrible. I loathe eye contact with pretty much anyone, and that video seriously creeped me out with just that small clip that she showed me. I find that more creepy than, and I don't think that would ever help me with eye contact in any way, shape, or form. Admittedly, I do have other problems, but I find eye contact very difficult to do.
If you want to know America's future, look no further than Japan. A lot of people, including myself, blame this partially on the rise of social media and technology. RIP to the king. Although technology...
I don't know who that was, but yes, I agree with her. Social media is definitely something that detracts from real life. Admittedly, I am doing this on a social platform, so maybe I shouldn't be speaking about this. But I do find that having social media makes it considerably more difficult to interact with people in real life, because when you're on social media or buying things, you don't actually have to interact with people, you just interact with names on the screen, which makes it considerably easier to interact with, and then you don't actually learn how to talk to someone or figure out what someone else's opinion is, because they're just a name on the screen. You don't really care about a name on the screen's feelings or opinions. So, yeah, I can understand this entire thing. I don't know who the person is in the picture, though, that she showed. I don't know who that is. Clearly, he got arrested, because that's clearly a mugshot of some kind, but
to the
I don't
king.
know who it
Although
is.
technology makes things easier, it can also make us more atomized. Why go to the mall when I can just tap, 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 buy a new microphone, and have it shipped to me in a day? Why hang out with
I do that, honestly. I prefer buying stuff off Amazon compared to going out to the mall.
friends when I can get all my social interaction I need from Twitter and streamers? Why go on
That was kind of my point as well. So, sorry
dates
for...
and bother meeting women when I can just tap, 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 Google big boob and get 2 million results? Or see my high school crush's holes on OnlyFans for only $5. Instant dopamine, instant satisfaction, and hey, who even needs a real woman when you could just have an AI girlfriend? Or
I honestly find AI girlfriends kind of creepy. I do understand her points here. Because it is way easier to just do all the stuff that she said to rather than getting a girlfriend. Compared to back in, say, the 50s, so I'm thinking Happy Days, essentially. You actually had to go and meet someone in order to go on a date and then potentially hook up with them in the future. Whereas now, it is completely different. You can, as she said, literally just find anything, anywhere, if you want to.
we're so fucked. Dating apps really are the great Satan, and I'm convinced they've completely broken men's brains. Women on dating apps are picky. Women in general.
Well, that makes sense that women are picky. That if they are going to be the people who have the children and raise them, it makes sense. You met your fiancé on Tinder, you've been together for 6 years. There was just a lot of... Yeah, I can understand that. I agree. You can find people on them, but I think it's more difficult. Or obviously, what was I saying? There is a lot of difficulty finding someone, especially as a guy. From what I've read on reviews and stuff, as a guy, it's much harder to get a girl on the dating apps compared to being a girl trying to get a guy. Because, exactly, it's much harder, and you do have to remain guarded as well. I personally have never used a dating app because as I've stated, I'm not really interested in having a relationship with anyone. So I've never done this, so I don't know how any of this stuff works. But from reading online, which admittedly is a terrible resource, but from reading online, it's considerably more difficult to, or it will, as a guy, to find a partner through a dating app. I don't know about talking to people because, as I said, I only talk to people that I know really well in real life, and it's impossible to meet someone if you only talk to someone you know really well. So, as myself, I cannot really give you any personal insight into these things that she's bringing up because I have never really gone out to try and meet someone.
Are picky, and I mean, naturally we are pickier. You know, we're the ones who carry the babies, at least for now.
Artificial womb breakthrough. Ah, interesting. That sounds very much like a science fiction movie, which could easily turn into a science fiction horror movie. So, okay.
But on dating apps, you have to admit, it's a little
Okay. So, how men rate women on OkCupid.com. It looks like least attractive 6%, most attractive is 6%, and then everything else is pretty even towards the middle. Whereas how women rate men, 27% of men are in the least attractive versus the 0% in the most attractive. So I'm going to guess that those are accurate, but I don't know what OkCupid is. It's probably a dating app, if I'm being honest, given the type name. But there is a clear discrepancy between the two of these two charts. So men find pretty well, like over 20, 19, 15, over half of them, it looks like from this thing, 40, 55 plus 6. Men find them mostly attractive, women mostly attractive. And then there's a few that they find least attractive. Whereas women seem to find, according to this, admittedly, so I don't know if this is... I'm going to assume that this is accurate according to this particular dating app. Women find the overwhelming majority of men to be least attractive. Which will obviously make it much more difficult to be, or below the average of attractiveness, 50%. They find most of them unattractive, which is obviously completely their own right. I completely agree with that, but I do find it an interesting discrepancy between men and women.
It's safe to say that the commodification of love and the window shopping of dating apps probably has to do a lot with the rise of lonely single men. Men are not just lonely when it comes to dating, they're lonely when it comes to friendship too. According to Vox, Americans are...
Vox, as I'm assuming, a magazine of some kind. Men have fewer friends than ever, and it's harming their health. So she did pull up this originally in her intro. So
currently in a friendship recession, and men are being hit the hardest. The percentage of men who reported having at least 6 close friendships fell in half since the 90s.
Interesting point on that one. 1 in 5 single men said they have no close friendships. That's completely fair. I believe I have, let me think, I have 1, 2, I think I have 4 close friends. And those are all online. So I don't actually, in real life, or not real life, but in person, I'd only have, I think, 4 close friends. In person, I have 0. I basically don't know that many people.
1 in 5 men say they have no close friendships. Looking at all these statistics, the explosion of figures...
So it depends probably on what sort of questions they were asking. If they were asking, do you have a close friendship in real life? I would be one of those 1 out of 5 men. If they ask close friends at all, I would be in the percentage of people that do have close friends. Yeah, I can understand why, or this section I can understand. Friendships I can understand. Relationships less so.
Like Andrew Tate is not surprising at all.
I believe being a man is a blessing because it starts so
I've never actually listened to Andrew Tate, so
difficult. I believe that every man is born without any value at all. I think that the world's never going to think you're important unless you make yourself important.
And recently...
Honestly, I can kind of agree with what he was stating there. But I think that's true of everyone, not just men. You kind of have to make something of yourself before anyone really cares about what you're doing. You have to make something of yourself. Is what I believe. So, okay, let's see this. So, from percent identifying as liberal or conservative. So, okay, I was just trying to figure out what the way this was going. 12th grade boys. So liberal, it was at the height of its power at 25% back in, say, the 1976, roughly? So 25% of 12th grade boys said that they were liberals, whereas conservative boys was around, say, 17%. There's a sharp decline in liberal thinking until roughly around 1984. Then it climbs back up in 85 and is pretty even for that entire time. And with a spike back in 2007, 2008, roughly, according to this. Then it dropped back down. So basically, it looks like it's been going kind of downwards this entire time. Whereas the conservative has been climbing. So yeah, I understand her points. It has dipped down a bit here in the 2020s, but it's not been dipping down by much.
A new study came out about how young men are moving towards the right. And every other month, we, the liberal, sockdom, leftist, whatever you want to call the space online, performs the same song and dance. What's wrong with men? Why is this happening? Why don't we have a leftist Andrew Tate? We need to push men to the left. Andrew Tate...
I don't know if that's the best way to look at it, because I'm going to say that probably the reason why their men are going more conservative is because, how should I describe it? There's been a more of a push towards conservatism, because I'm going to guess the reason why is because there's less less people not pecking at you, less people trying to necessarily they're not speaking to you just to get you to join their side, essentially. I guess would be the best way to put it. Because judging from what she was saying here, I don't know if this is accurate for all liberals, but it seems like they only want the men on their side just to have them on their side, whereas I don't know what the conservatives are thinking in this scenario.
Rarely, if ever, talks about politics.
I don't know. As I said, I don't know anything about Andrew Tate, really.
Andrew Tate talks about men, and the left only talks about men when they talk about Andrew Tate. A few months ago, during one of the monthly song and dances, some progressive people I follow made the mistake of addressing men's issues, and the even bigger mistake of pointing their
Sid. Lil Baby Gandhi. That's an interesting name. The reason young men flock to alt-right MRA movements is because the left gives brain-dead advice to young men. We need to be more compassionate to them for our own sake. Yeah, I can understand that. Brain-dead advice. I'm guessing he means, like, advice that is so obvious that it doesn't need to be stated. Because, yeah, I can understand that.
Anger at their own spaces for not doing enough to address said men's issues.
Recently, there were some statistics by healthcare company Cigna indicating that men are the loneliest generation. And addressing it doesn't mean that you turn your back on issues pertaining to women, but it does mean that we should be focused on what it is in society that is leading to this epidemic, what the left can do to offer solutions, and how we can basically fight back against the more nefarious figures who have filled the void that, men are struggling with, people like Jordan Peterson and what have you.
I personally don't find Jordan Peterson to be that crazy. In fact, I think he has the right to be saying what he's saying through free speech. However, here in Canada, he did have to, or they were told him that he had to do this course so that he could retain his license to be a, what is he? Psychiatrist? No, not psychiatrist. Maybe it's a psychiatrist? I can't remember. Something in the psychiatry field. He needed to do this course in order to continue being a psychiatrist or whatever doctor he is. So I don't find him nefarious at all. I find him, I don't agree with everything that he says, obviously. But I find him definitely considerably more, he's easier to talk to, and he does have good points compared to some other people who just wants you to support them and their side. He does have good points, and he gives it legitimately good advice, in my opinion. Not just for men. I believe that everyone should be able to, most of his advice you can take as a man or a woman, and it will make sense to you. So, or it will make sense if you're not looking at it as something that's attacking you and your ideologies and opinions and things. If you look at it as advice on how to live a life properly, I think it would work better rather than looking at it as an attack upon you and your opinions.
Now, recently, Vosh, who's a popular...
I don't know if you should be listening to Vosh.
Streamer, had tweeted this thread that I think is really, really important to address. He writes, "I cannot stress enough."
She's going to read it aloud, but I kind of want to read it. "I cannot stress enough how important it is to understand that 12-year-old white boys on Twitch are not being pulled into fascism because of some Machiavellian desire to preserve and expand their privileges. It's because the right talks to them and the left doesn't." That's actually a good point. I'm amazed that I'm saying that about Vosh, because I do not like him at all. But yeah, I understand his points here. He actually made a decent point in this section. If you don't talk to someone, which admittedly I don't talk to anyone, but if you don't talk to someone and someone else talks to them, they're probably going to be leaning more towards that person, regardless of what they're saying.
How important it is to understand that 12-year-old white boys on Twitch are not being pulled into fascism because of some Machiavellian desire to preserve and expand their privileges. It's because the right talks to them and the left doesn't.
The responses to these tweets and this content were very normal, level-headed, and respectful. Me when I lie. Mayo? Cry about it. Boo f***ing who? Oh no, poor widow men having problems. Boo f***ing who? Grow the f*** up then. Have men considered being smarter? I'm enjoying all these sad little moids and their sad little tweets about their sad, pathetic lives. Sounds like a personal problem. Is the lack of compassion for men in the room with us right now?
I recognize that picture that they had. It was a guy who was pretending to be crazy so that he didn't have to go to jail. And the officer knew that he was pretending, so it was funny.
Maybe men are just not good people.
I don't think that's a good point for whoever this was that wrote this. I disagree with this. I think people are inherently good, in my opinion. Obviously, there are people that do bad things, but that does not make a group or a subset or a gender evil just because some of them are evil or do evil things. It does not mean that everyone in that group is evil. Just because 1 or 2 or 3 people are evil in a group, that does not make the entire group evil. Now, admittedly, if the group is only like 4 people, it would be considerably more difficult to tell what the group is. But lumping an entire sex of people, or gender of people, as men, saying that they're all just evil, I completely disagree with that statement.
I'm so fucking tired of people trying to make male loneliness a huge societal problem. Yeah, no, their fifis are not my responsibility, and I shouldn't have to be punished because they can't get their shit together as human beings. Grow the up.
I don't think anyone was saying that you should get punished and to try and help this problem. I don't think anyone ever said that. Sure, their feelings are not your responsibility, and I agree you shouldn't be punished, but no one was saying that this person, whoever it was, needed to be punished to help people. You would think that people would generally be nicer. They're trying to make a point that this entire group of people is evil, or, you know, not good people. Not necessarily evil, but by doing this, they're not giving their own side a good case that they're good as well, because you would think that as a good person, you'd want to help people become better, essentially. So this is not going to help anyone by stating this sort of thing.
Why are we trying to win these entitled little predators over?
This, again, I also don't like. Not everyone is a predator. Sure, there are some predators, admittedly, but not everyone is a predator. The next statement. The left isn't for them, that's why they go right in the first place. Then you shouldn't be complaining. If that's what you truly believe, then you shouldn't be complaining about this, that they are going to the right. However, my personal belief, people aren't, unless you're brainwashed, people won't be completely on the right or on the left. Because you're always going to be somewhere in the middle. Sure, you may agree with most of the statements that one side preaches, but there will also be things that you don't agree with, and that's obviously excellent because it allows you to see things from a different perspective than someone else who does agree with those statements, but they might disagree with other things that you say, or agree with other things that you say. So I think that it's a good thing to have people that don't agree with every single thing the other person believes.
Left isn't for them. That's why they go right in the first place. We're all lonely and alienated. It's young men going to the alt-right in droves. The problem isn't our messaging, it's them. It's literally not our problem. Men flock to Andrew Tate not because—
She didn't read the entire thing. Not because they're lonely, because they're bigots. I disagree with that entirely. I don't really know Andrew Tate because I should really learn more about internet people. But I've never been interested in him because he's always seemed a bit of a prick from what I've seen, the short clips that I've seen. So I don't really know much about him. But I don't think that people are going to him because they're bigots.
they're lonely, but because they're bigots. Hope this helps. Nah, it's just misogynists being louder than before and not getting laid. LOL. Cry harder, losers. 90% of all homicides recorded worldwide were committed by male perpetrators. We should just get rid of all males, to be honest. This includes trans women, as they still retain
Oh god. So yeah. You can do these percentages of things. I'm trying to remember. I won't give any percentages because I can't give the exact percentages. I would have to do research and find the exact percentages. But yeah. But there's also most of the successful suicides are also male. So we don't necessarily have all of these statements that they're making may be true. But you're also looking at it specifically through a lens that you want to see it as. Misandry is bad. I agree with this. If you hate men for literally no reason, that is also bad. Just the same as misogyny is bad because if you hate all women. But this statement in the final sentence is absolutely ridiculous and stupid.
male violence. By the way, you know the Tumblr feminists who were like, all men are sexist and rapists, male tears, penises are evil, blah 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 back in the day? Well, this is them now. Should've just let me cook back then. Listen up, chuckle. I'm white, socially awkward,
This is kind of funny, because this is just an utterly ridiculous statement to make. Yeah, this is just a stupid statement, because he's literally just... It seems like he's trying to make himself out to be a victim here, and then saying that because he recognized that most of the sorts that look like him are the problem, I don't think that's going to help anyone come to your side, because you're saying that you know that people who look like you are a problem, and the people who look like you are not going to be like, oh yeah, we should definitely help this person.
in my 40s, ugly, overweight, crippled, got a weird balding pattern, and have bad skin. You know what I didn't do?
I have several of these things that he states here. I wouldn't be writing anything like this because, one, who cares, for the first part. Two, you're just being cruel and mean to everyone else that looks like you and saying that, you know, you're the problem.
Choose to become a fascist because I recognize most of the sort that look like me are the problem. I may be hideously ugly and pathetic, but at least I'm not a fascist. Thank you for your input, buddy. You're, really helping the situation. The reason young men flock to alt-right MRA movements is because the left gives brain-dead advice
Oh, she already showed this thing. Okay.
to young men. We need to be more compassionate to them, for our own sake. I'm sorry, but how is respect women brain-dead advice?
Yeah, but by saying respect women, you're implying that the person is stupid and doesn't know to respect women. Sure, there are some people that you should say this to, but you don't need to keep repeating this ad nauseum to people. I know I get annoyed when someone tells me this, because, quite frankly, I'm always respectful to people, unless you are rude to me, at which point I will dish it back out to you at the exact same frequency. But by saying this, it's like someone coming up to you and telling you, hey, you know, you shouldn't be murdering people as you're out for a walk or just sitting on a bench somewhere, and so someone walks up to you and says, hey, you know, you shouldn't be murdering people, right? That would be extremely confusing, but if people kept doing that to you, you're going to get annoyed because obviously murdering someone's wrong and you should never do it. But they seem to think that you need to know this statement or need to know this without considering the fact that you might already know this and you don't need this told to you over and over again.
What advice? Don't rape? Don't...
Yeah, most people won't do this. Most people are good or will do good if given the option. Unless you're in a group, at which point, if you're in a group, you can throw pretty much everything out because mob mentality is a real thing.
Don't be a rapist is bad advice? Help, I have no friends or community, I feel suicidal. Have you
Yeah, I agree. If that happened, you know.
considered not raping. Act like a decent fucking human being. It's not hard. Is brain dead advice? Brain dead advice like get consent and don't be a Nazi and women are people. Walking up to men struggling with loneliness and depression like
Kids, don't be racist.
I have no idea what that's from, but yeah, yep. It's kind of a stupid way of going about it, because obviously, you know, there are people who do need that. It's told to them. However, you telling them that is not going to solve their problems or their way of thinking.
incredible. Here's my actual advice I would give to my teen boys as a leftist. 1. Always get enthusiastic consent. 2. Save the planet. 3. Don't say that. It's actually kind of racist.
Don't say what? I have no idea what this last statement's about. It makes no sense to me. Always get enthusiastic consent? Sure, fine. Save the planet? Sure, fine. But the last one doesn't make any sense to me.
Like, what the f is this? How does this address men and their issues?
Oh yeah, if we're looking at it through the lens of how do we help men, that doesn't really help.
It doesn't. Why does their advice always seem to be, become a liberal? Hey men, here's how to fix all your problems. Agree with me politically. Men flock to the
Yeah, that's not gonna help.
MRA movement because they're the largest beneficiaries of MRA
Well, yeah, men's right advocates, that makes sense. You would think that a men's rights advocate would be helpful towards men. The same as a women's rights advocate would be most helpful towards women, right? That would make the most sense, right? Obviously, it looks like they continued their statements, but I don't see it, so I cannot say what exactly they were stating in this thing, and I can't even look it up because the name's covered up. But yeah, it would make sense. Men go to the people that help them. Women go to the people that help them. So
Imagine saying women flock to women's rights activism because they're the biggest
sorry, I said the exact same.
beneficiaries of women's rights. Like, no f***ing shit. Let's be honest.
I'm sorry, his face. Men have become obsolete. Most women can find other methods, okay? And speaking as a man, most of us are horrid to be around. I disagree with that. I think out of my 4 close friends, actually, never mind. Half of my close friends are men and the other half are women. But no, most of the people that I've met, admittedly, I'm not friends with them, but most of the people that I've met who are men weren't horrid to be around. They were just normal, ordinary people. Women definitely can. Women definitely can be horrible. Yeah, I can understand that. I know that women can be horrible. Women, no. No what? Sorry, I was on a thing about the horrid. Oh, yeah, but I believe men can also do that as well. But I disagree with men being obsolete. Men are people just as well as women. And I don't see any reason to denigrate men because you think that they're obsolete. But I do find his expression in this photo pretty funny. But yeah, I don't blame any woman for saying no thank you. They can do whatever they feel like. I don't care. But saying that most men are horrid is a terrible thing to say because most men that I've met and from my experiences have been really nice. Sure, I have met terrible, terrible people, but I've met both sides as terrible, terrible people. So, yeah. I disagree with this guy's statements, essentially.
Aside from procreation purposes, men have become obsolete. Most women can find other methods of achieving
What I should say is I should stop reading these things aloud and then having her read it aloud afterwards. This whole thing of would you rather run to a bear or a man in the woods? Well, I personally would rather, honestly, a bear would I'd probably get eaten by a bear, but that'd be fine, if I'm being completely honest. A bear at least wouldn't, a bear, actually a bear would probably just kill me really quickly, so that'd be better. But that's possible. I don't know. I haven't read any research into that particular statement, but my personal opinion is, yeah, a bear technically doesn't care about you. As a guy, I don't really care about anyone else. basically. I would see you as a person, and then I'll sometimes say hi, maybe, if I feel like it. But I don't really care about talking to people in any way, shape, or form. I do understand why, if you don't want to talk to someone, or hang out with someone, you'd rather see a bear, but, you know.
Orgasm without a man there. And speaking as a man, most of us are horrid to be around, and I don't blame any woman for just saying.
Same with sharks, actually. Sharks, I'd rather meet a shark rather than a dolphin, if I'm being honest. Sharks generally won't harm you unless it gets confused, and sure, when they get confused, they'll bite a massive chunk out of your body, but, you know. A bear or a dolphin, they're generally nice from what I've heard. Well, no, there's some dolphins that are pretty mean from what I've also heard, so it's difficult to say.
No thanks. Oh my god, dude, this is what every Just Pearly Things tweet looks like to me.
I have no idea what a Just Pearly thing is, so I apologize.
Just with the gender swapped. This is pathetic. You know what fixes male loneliness? Jerking off. As a man, I'll say this. Sit down.
Okay, she didn't read the entire thing, so let's go back.
Pearly Things tweet looks like to me. Just with the gender swapped. This is pathetic. You know what fixes.
With the realization that, okay, it brings disease and one's pregnancy, also attaching yourself to a mother of your child for the rest of your life, get a hobby. Okay. I don't think that really helps with the statement that the person was making. Male loneliness, that does not help because it's not actually meeting someone. You know, getting a hobby, sure. Getting a hobby, I agree with. But from what I've seen, most people don't do this anyway. This statement here, attaching yourself to a mother of your child. As far as I know, I don't really care for that. I prefer, you know, a happy family, but I personally have no opinions in this particular statement. But this suggestion this person has does not really fix a loneliness problem at all. Getting a hobby might help, though.
Male loneliness? Jerking off. As a man, I'll say this. Sit down, shut up, and beat one out. You'll feel better. I promise. Yeah, guys, just beat one out. Just off. Just watch porn. Batman will be very...
Okay, so that's why she brought up the Batman thing earlier. Okay, so yeah. Pornography or anything like that does not help in any way, shape, or form. Being lonely. In fact, it would probably make you feel worse.
Very disappointed in all of you. It's so funny how men feel entitled to...
I don't think that's what they were saying. That men felt that the men in the statements before felt entitled to a girlfriend. Because we were talking about both friendships as well as relationships. So, especially with the 1 in 5 people don't think that they have a close friend, that's a pretty big, massive statistic. So I don't think that this statement is entirely correct. Sure, there are probably, undoubtedly, people who feel entitled to a girlfriend, just the same as there are girls who feel entitled to a boyfriend. So I don't agree with this statement that's whoever this person was said.
A girlfriend. No, you sexist freak. When one side is like, wanting a girlfriend is sexist entitlement, and the other side is like, here's how to get a girlfriend. I don't know, bro.
Honestly, if you were looking for a girlfriend, the latter side would 100% be a more obvious choice to go to. Because the one saying, you know, you don't deserve one, the other one's saying, we can help you get a girlfriend. Now, I disagree with the idea that you need a girlfriend or someone to be happy, but, you know, if you really wanted to have a girlfriend, then obviously the second one would be the one that you'd go to, because it makes no sense to go to the ones that tell you you don't deserve one.
What happened to males just kicking the butt?
That is still happening, if I remember correctly. Males still are the highest amounts of people who kill themselves.
Now they just come on here and try to make their loneliness and misery into some social justice issue.
Now imagine if you reverse this, though. What happened to women just kicking the bucket? Now they just come on here and try to make their loneliness and misery into some kind of social justice issue. That is a completely different statement, and they would 100%, these people, whoever this person is, would 100% be jumping down the throat of whoever said that. I don't see how there's a difference, because you are still people. You know, just different genders. The fact of the matter is, you're still a person, and you should feel compassion and not necessarily love, but you should feel compassion for someone who is suffering. Now, I agree. Maybe there are some people who... But actually, no, I don't actually agree with any of the statements. Never mind. I thought maybe I could find some common ground with the statement. No, I disagree with it completely. Because if you just put women here in this section, they would hate this and think that this is completely misogynistic and wrong. So I don't see how putting males in it changes it in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, trust me, men are still kicking.
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand why it's gone off the graph here. But yeah, 100%. The 15 to 19. Oh god, that's even worse than I thought, because I thought this was older than that. But yes, deaths per 100,000 population between... Currently it's between like 17 or 18 per 100,000 people. Males dying. Admittedly, if I remember correctly, females do attempt it more, but they don't succeed as often because males generally choose a more violent and final end, whereas females are less likely to do something that drastic.
The bucket. And when they're not giving mind-blowing advice like just to be a liberal, they're outright dismissing men's issues completely. It's not our job to educate.
Okay, leftists and progressives have absolutely no idea how unnecessary repellent they come off to so many people, and they get angry at the idea of being a more effective social movement because they don't want to share their social spaces with people who might have gone another way. So this is Vosh again. I don't like Vosh at all. Mostly because I find him kind of repellent, and yeah, I don't really want to talk about him. But I agree with his statements that if you're trying to attract people to your cause, which they were saying that they were trying to originally in this video, way back here, where they were saying that they wanted men to come to the left rather than go to the right, by stating all of these things, if I was vaguely interested in any political party, then any of these statements would immediately drive me away. Because, sure, some of you might not be like that, but the statements by these people who claim to be your spokesman, or at least are speaking for you in these particular areas, that would drive me away because I'd think, oh, so they don't care about me in any way, shape, or form. If you want to attract people, you won't attract... As there's an old saying where you attract more flies with honey than with vinegar. That's actually technically untrue. There is... flies do get attracted to vinegar, but I can understand what they're stating in that particular statement. By saying anything that specifically targets a group, you are not going to attract those people to your cause or group.
Since men created the problem, they need to take steps to fix it.
Well, I agree with that. Definitely. But the men are trying to, it sounds like, they are trying to find ways to fix this. But when they ask for help from people on the left, they don't receive it. Whereas if they ask for help on the right do tell them how to do things. So I can understand why people would be leaning more conservative through this statement.
We have other things to care about. Men can figure out their own problems that they created. Again, it's not women's jobs to change how men are socialized. It's a man issue, and y'all need to address that amongst yourselves. Men created their own problems. Men can solve their own problems. The left is busy.
As you can see, all of these statements would not be helpful to your cause to attract people to join you. Because if you keep saying, it's your problem, you solve it, and this other guy's saying, come over here, we'll help you, which side will you go to? Exact same points as I made earlier about the person complaining that men's right advocates groups were attracting men. It makes sense that they're attracting men because they're offering help, whereas women's rights activists are offering help to women. So women will obviously go towards women's rights activists compared to a men's rights activist.
Why does the well-being of other people concern me? leftist, by the way. It's all systemic issues and societal factors and blah 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 until it's a man and then suddenly it's pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. This problem is just a consequence of the patriarchy. Now take a wild guess about which gender created the patriarchy. Solve your own problems and leave women alone. These people rightly mock the bootstraps rhetoric until the subject is a man, and then it's bootstraps all the way down. They would never talk about any other group this way. It's wild. And it's kind of like both sides are telling men to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but one is like, I'll show you how, and the other is like, fuck off. And when they're not telling...
Yeah, exactly. That was my point as well. One is offering you help to achieve what you want, the other one is pushing you away.
Men to straight up fuck off. They're giving...
Now, admittedly, I'm only seeing stuff through her lens that she wants to show you for this particular video. But, in my experience, online, there does seem to be a more aggressive and angry approach towards how men are treated compared to women. Including at my university. When I had a problem with this one professor, she really didn't like me for some reason. Probably because I didn't agree with her about certain things that we discussed in college. So she said specifically, so I can't remember the specifics, but she was discussing something and she was making serious mistakes and not looking at all the facts. So I said that she was incorrect. Now, obviously, I probably shouldn't have done that, but I am terrible with social engagements, and I couldn't believe that she was saying things that were untrue because it supported her viewpoint. So this was in not statistics, but a sociology course. So I then spoke up and said that was incorrect, and then she asked me to come up and explain to everyone why it wasn't incorrect. And I did, and I had the facts to prove it, and I showed the class my facts, and she never asked me up again or asked me any questions throughout the rest of the course. She also, I think, marked down all of my coursework, which I did. She marked them down by quite a bit, no matter what I did. I even took it to another professor who was also a sociologist professor, and he said that he didn't understand her marking because, according to him, the mark should have been way higher. So she didn't like me for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it was because I spoke up and said something that she didn't agree with and kind of disagreed with her statements. But if I was gonna, I find it's extremely hard to trust.
The 200 IQ answer that nobody has ever heard before. Just show your emotions, bro.
I wouldn't suggest doing that.
And I'm not dismissing this problem, okay? I've made videos talking about this. Oh, you're crying at your grandfather's funeral? Okay, faggot. And studies have shown that men are scared to be vulnerable, even around the homies. And can you blame them when the media says stupid like this?
UK builders go woke. Study finds 3/4 of tradesmen discuss their feelings with colleagues, while 2/3 shun the fried breakfast, and nearly half say they're history buffs. Okay, a poll of 2,000 builders found 2/3 regularly talk about their feelings. Nearly half said they were history buffs, and 60% favored science. Research shows outdated stereotypes about builders do not reflect the reality. I will say that's a stupid title, but yeah, it's just a stupid title.
Is it woke to open up to your fellow men and discuss history? Men are socialized to believe strength, dominance, and stoicism are behaviors of a...
Well, yeah. But this has been a statement that that has been around for millennia. Achilles. He was strong, brave, stoic. And throughout history, that has been Achilles as well as... Achilles is a great one. Odysseus. He was crafty, though, as well. So he was smart, brave, strong, silent, you know. Then you have, like, Clint Eastwood, who plays the strong, silent cowboy who goes in and saves everyone. Yeah, I can understand this. Or Batman. He's strong, silent, brave man. And he is literally a man. Admittedly, he has a lot of money. But he's a man who fights against gods and fights alongside immortal beings that can save the world with their own strength. So I can understand why people really like Batman. Or you have like Daredevil from the Daredevil series, where he is a very strong, talented. Yes, he has a superpower where he has his radar sense so he can figure out where people are. But he's also blind, which means he has to live with his blindness. Admittedly, it's easier with the radar sense, but there have been a few comics where his radar sense has been disrupted, and so he's not able to use it. Can't remember what one. And even in the third season of the Daredevil show, after he recovers from his injuries from the Defenders, he has times where his radar sense no longer works, and so he's literally blind, and now he has to suffer through that while trying to be a hero. So that shows strength of character as well as, pure physical strength.
Real man. Is it any surprise that men are lonely and have less friends nowadays? You have to be vulnerable to make friends. Don't tell me there aren't systemic problems affecting men. Now, while a lot of this may be true, men have been socialized this way for centuries, and this is all
I would say millennia, but
relatively a new phenomena. Toxic masculinity has existed forever. If anything, there's less toxic masculinity nowadays. The cultural embrace of like gender nonconformity, femboys, Harry Styles in a dress, Barbie movie, blah blah.
I found Harry Styles in a dress to be a completely ridiculous outfit. But then again, if that's what he chose, why not? But I found it ridiculous. I don't know what a femboy is, but I presume it's someone who's a guy who presents more female. So similar to like in some of the angel depictions in the old work or old painters. But I don't really know what a femboy is, so.
Blah blah. My point is, toxic masculinity did not just appear in the mid-2010s, but
No, it did not. It's been around for millennia.
social media did, and the internet did, and the rise of dating apps did, and the housing crisis, and living in a country where the wealth inequality is worse than it was during the Gilded Age. That all happened.
The 20s. Yeah, I completely agree. We have extremely wealthy people, very few of them, but they are so crazy wealthy that it's impossible to really picture how much money they have as a human. Sure, you can see the number, but it doesn't really sink into you that that number is that large.
Recently. Oh my god, the privileged life these poor little boys must have, that their biggest problem is being lonely, i.e. so insufferable that nobody wants to sleep with them.
I disagree with that statement. Loneliness is not just because you don't have someone to sleep with. I can be lonely. I have zero interest in sleeping with anyone. But yeah, loneliness is not just that. It's feeling literally that like no one wants to engage with you or talk with you in any shape or form. Or you don't have anyone to do that with. So yeah, I disagree with this. And it's not a privilege that you feel lonely. That your biggest problem is that you feel lonely. There's this, so it's a book where there's three people two boys and a girl, and all three of them go to see a ghost, and they can see the ghost because they are all wish to see death's face. And the girl is extremely lonely, and the reason why she's lonely is because everyone bullies her because of, I can't remember the reason why, but she's always being bullied. And so she wants to die. Then you have a boy, I can't remember his name at present, but he was a basketball star, but he now has this disease that's going to kill him within a year. And so he knows he's going to die, but he, still acts the same way as he always did so that no one knows that he's dying. And then the last one, he's overworked. He's trying to be perfect for his mother, but he can't. But it's wearing down on him, and so he also wishes to die. But he decides, the boy, who is overworked, decides that instead of doing his job and preparing for exams and things, he's going to help the ghost find her body so that she can be free. The other two work together to try and just be friends, because they don't know about the other person's struggles. But she's told, when she does reveal that the reason why she wants to die is because she was bullied, she's laughed at. Because how could that possibly compare to anyone else's problems? So I disagree that it's a privilege. That your biggest problem is being lonely. Being lonely is terrible and is a terrible feeling that no one should ever have to experience, especially surrounded by people that should care about you. So, and having no friends is a terrible thing as well. Admittedly, I never saw the point in having friends originally, because I always thought that it would be a massive hindrance and trouble. But having friends is actually honestly, extremely comforting, because you have someone that you can explain your feelings to, and someone that would be willing to help you if they could. But if people don't have that, then yes, I can understand why there's massive problems. And people saying these things does not help in any way, shape, or form. It just makes them feel more ostracized, and why shouldn't I be able to feel better about it?
So much more pressing than the poor distribution of wealth causing people to suffer food and housing insecurity. Boo-hoo, you're lonely and have no friends and are suicidal when? Because feeling alienated under capitalism apparently isn't a thing. People are working harder and longer while wages have been stagnant, men have been dropping out of college like flies, and what does that get you? Poor men. Which, since women are doing amazing in college now, and many are now out-earning men, this most of the time leads to single men, which then leads to lonely men, which leads to depressed men, which leads to the high suicide rate. In my opinion, leftism at a policy level does a great job addressing the shitty material conditions that in part lead to the problems that men are facing, but then absolutely drops the ball when it comes to everything and anything related to men's cultural issues. Many such cases. And why would a struggling man even want to move left when the left appears actively hostile to them?
The question of whether or not
Yeah, I can agree with her statements there. Oddly enough, I actually am finding myself agreeing with most of her statements here, and finding myself disagreeing mostly with the statements that we're seeing through the online space that she's showing. Other than, like, Vosh, which I'm seriously surprised that I am agreeing with Vosh, because I dislike him immensely. But I can understand Shu's viewpoints on this entire topic. I have no idea who this guy is, but I'm going to assume that this is someone on the left who she disagrees with, so.
the hashtag online left does enough to appeal to hashtag men has become the question.
I hate when people say hashtag something or other in a regular sentence. It makes, if you're doing it online to, appear in, like, a search term, yeah, I can understand that. But in real life, when you're talking about it online or in a video or something, it sounds like you're so stupid.
Du jour, and like men have most of the money, authority, and do most of the murdering and assault.
Okay, but that's literally, so most of the money, yeah, most of the money is with men, but it's only with like 5 men, say. Like Elon Musk or what's his face? Bezos. Jeff Bezos. Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. Let's use those two for an example. You then have at least a couple million men that do not have that same privilege. Then let's go with the murder statistic. Yeah, most murders are done by men. But then again, most men aren't murdering people. So you can use statistics. I learned this in my statistics course. It was brilliant. You can use statistics to say whatever you want to say. It doesn't matter what the statistics actually say. You can manipulate the data so that it says exactly what you want it to say. This guy's saying that this problem is entirely every single man's problem, which it's not. You have the richest guys in the world who have all this material wealth and material objects. And then you also have all the men down below, like me. I don't make much money. I can barely afford to live. But I'm still lumped inside the same space as Musk. That makes no sense to me, at any rate. Not that I have anything against Elon Musk. I think personally that he's an interesting person. But who has done some interesting things. But saying that the fact that he has a lot of money makes it every single man's problem is stupid, in my opinion.
The average young man in America isn't Jeff Bezos.
My exact point.
Also, why did this motherfucker just FBI crime statistics at me? Men do the most murder. Okay?
They like having
Exactly. My point exactly. Honestly, yeah.
all of the stuff they don't deserve. They like that. They want it to stay that way because it suits them. Because of the stuff, telling people they're special and deserve all the nice shit that they have, that's going to be an easier sell 10 times out of 10 than like saying, hey, maybe you should have less stuff and other people should have more.
Leftism.
I don't really agree with that because, say, Elon Musk, I believe he got most of his money from his father, who owned an emerald mine, I think, somewhere in Africa. So admittedly, his father probably got it from somewhere. I have no idea how that happened. But Elon Musk got the money from his father. I don't see a problem with that if you get money from a parent when they die or whatever. I don't know if his father's alive or dead, but if you get money from your parents, I don't see any reason for making that a problem. Who's to say that... So, I own a $2,500 computer. It was actually closer to $3,000 when it released. But I own that because I earned it. I worked really hard and did a lot of stuff in order to get it. Are they saying that I should get rid of my computer because someone else deserves it who is poorer than me? If so, I highly disagree with this sort of statement. I don't like when people take my stuff, which I worked hard to get and earn, and say that I didn't deserve it because it's something that I just didn't deserve to get. And that it should go to someone else who is more deserving. I disagree with that. They can also work just as hard as I did to get this computer to get their own.
Is when you don't have a lot of stuff. We're gonna take your stuff. You sound like a 65-year-old Fox News boomer's idea of what the left is. Are you a CIA agent? The right is saying to men, you will own a house. You will have beautiful children with your
I personally don't want to own a house. I'd rather own an apartment, but yeah, I can understand that.
loving wife. You will have privacy. You will have free speech.
Privacy and free speech, excellent choices. We're kind of running low on that here in Canada.
You will own things, and you will be happy. And the left is like...
They like having all of the stuff they don't deserve.
But don't get me wrong.
Yeah, 100%, it's the sell. You will be able to get whatever you are thinking about getting if you work hard and get it. Or, you don't deserve it. Yeah, I can tell you exactly which sell I'd go for.
Republicans will not do shit. The Republican
Yeah, political parties are kind of stupid. They don't get anything done.
Party will not do shit. The establishment in general will not do shit.
Yeah, it suits them to have you be in poverty compared to the richest people.
Help any of this. But the right is, at least rhetorically, offering men something other than nothing or the eternal HR department. Every time this Discord comes up, there's people like, we need a leftist Andrew Tate. We need masculine role models on the left. But the fact is, it's hard for progressives to organically appeal to men, because a large part of progressivism is oppressive hierarchies, and men are oppressors. Making progressivism look appealing to young men is an uphill battle from the start. And although it's funny to laugh at insane people on Twitter, as always, there have been a lot of left-wing content creators talking about men's issues. If you would have told me this would be a thing 9 years ago, I would not believe you, because anyone talking about men's issues back in the day was called an MRA or a pick-me. But lately I have seen a lot of good pro-men lefty content, and I'll put some links to some below. I don't agree with all the points they say, but I recommend watching. It's much better than...
They like having all of the stuff they don't deserve.
But the issue is a lot of this lefty pro-men content, it's always framed around how do we get them? As if men are just pawns and tools for your personal politics.
Honestly, though, both sides kind of do that. But one is really good at disguising the fact that they are doing that. They make it seem like they want to help you, and maybe they do help people. But they're both definitely working to get you on their side as a political pawn against the enemy.
How do we make the left more appealing to men? How do we stop lonely men from moving to Andrew Tate? Instead of just, how do we help men? And I think that's a really big issue. Both sides seem to treat men as political fodder. Disposable soldiers in the culture war and real war. Anyway, misandry is real. Oh good, finally! And while it doesn't systemically affect cis men, it most certainly affects trans men.
Oh god, that's a stupid statement. If it affects... So, you're already separating trans men from regular men. Which is kind of, you know, a terrible way to frame this. But if it affects them, how come why doesn't it affect regular men? If I may ask that question. If it affects one side of the population, how come it doesn't affect the other?
Oh, y'all talking about misandry doesn't harm men, and trans men are right there reading this shit, by the way. I see, now we only care about misandry because it affects trans men. Everyone stop! It's affecting a group I care about now. I love how the rhetoric just, like, evolved overnight, from male tears to cis male tears. And I just have to ask, why aren't you including trans men in your misandry,
Nobody told me how lonely being a man is. We knew what depth felt like before we transitioned. We knew what it felt like to like have people want to hug us and to have people want to talk to us and to have a community. And then you transition and you're just a guy walking down the street that people cross the street so that they're not near you. And friendships are so much harder to build. What's hard is none of this invalidates how real and raw women and people who are in marginalized groups feel about cis white men. All of that's valid. But I also now understand why the suicide rate is so much higher in men.
Welcome to being a man!
Well, that was considerably depressing to hear. But, yeah, I completely agree with everything that he states.
Here's your complimentary isolation and yellow pillow. I love how even when he's experiencing the issues of being a man, he's like, this doesn't invalidate people hating men. Come on, bro. Men struggling don't want to be lectured about the patriarchy. They don't want to be told it's all their fault. They don't want to be told they're part of the problem because first of all, they're not. The average 20-year-old didn't build society. They go to work, come home, off to sissy hypno fetish porn, and go to bed like everyone else. I've talked about this before, but a lot of men's value comes from the money they make, unfortunately. Men are now...
Yeah, you kind of need a purpose. If you don't have a purpose, then what's the point of being alive? Is kind of how I think people would see it. That's kind of how I see it. I don't particularly really have a purpose at present. But, so I can 100% agree with this sort of rhetoric here. If you don't have a purpose, you should find one, because that will give your life meaning. 100%. If you don't have a purpose, then you literally, it's very difficult to find a reason because you don't have a reason to continue. Yeah.
Natural providers, and if they have nobody to provide for, they get into findom or send random girls on the internet money. I'm just kidding.
Admittedly, I don't know if people are doing that for those reasons, but for like streamers and whatever, or like friends that I know, I'll give them, if I have any extra money, I'll send them stuff. Like, if I had any money, I'd be subscribing to so many of my friends, so that, not because they need the money, but because I'd like to support them. Or I'm given gift subs to people, which obviously is people going above and beyond just buying their own subs, and giving me a sub to something. So like, I've been given, I think, 3 gift subs to different people over the past month. Which means that, obviously, I really do appreciate that, but people are... I don't think it's necessarily to have a purpose, is which to give it. But I know for a fact that if there was anything wrong, I would definitely want to help in any way, shape, or form that I could. Someone make it through their day with $5 or something. If I had the money, I would definitely be doing that.
But the fact is, a lot of men simply feel like they don't have a purpose anymore. Whether a job...
Yeah, exactly. If you have a purpose, you can get through anything. You can... There's a reason why there's all those stories about people who have survived terrible things. It's because they had a purpose. They needed to be somewhere. Like, during war, there's often stories about a guy who went above and beyond the call of duty so that he could save a friend. He had a purpose. He needed to save his friend from something. Or there was this guy who, I can't remember his name, but he was from India. I think he was, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he fought an onslaught of Japanese soldiers in the Pacific for hours, maybe even a day. He lost his arm, but he continued fighting against them, and he got the Victoria Cross. I believe he did die before he got it, but he had a purpose. He needed to defend this point from the Japanese in order to make sure his men got out. So if you have a purpose, you will fight. You can fight, you can struggle, you can really work really hard to get to something that you really want to. So I agree with her. It would be better if you have a purpose, because then you can fight for it and struggle onwards mightily until you achieve that purpose, and then you find another one.
Or a career that's fulfilling and pays well, or a woman or family to protect and take care of and provide for. Men are lacking purpose, and a man will crawl through broken glass for a purpose. But you know who does make them feel like they have a purpose?
Sorry. I was not expecting her to throw Jesus on the screen.
No, not him.
I say that life as a man is exceptionally difficult. I say the most beautiful and the most terrifying thing about being a man is you're born without value. Society doesn't care about you.
The absolute audacity.
But honestly, I would technically agree with that. Except I would not say it's just men. I think it's everyone. You're born without purpose, without a reason to be there. You have to make that reason. You have to achieve someone's respect. So I would say some of what he's saying is correct, but I wouldn't say it's just all towards men. I believe women, children, and everything should also have a purpose and work towards it. And that is where people will begin to acknowledge you and see you.
To act shocked that Andrew Tate is scooping these guys up after a decade of lol male tears is insane. Andrew Tate isn't the solution to men's problems, but he is talking to them. The fact is, you did not care about them for years, and even now you just want to recruit them, not help them. And that's why you will fail. And hey, maybe I'll be the Andrew Tate of the left. Men, listen up. Wash your penis. So I guess I'll leave you guys with a question. Why do you think male loneliness has been increasing? What are your solutions for this problem? And are you dealing with loneliness? And I will see you guys next time with a new video. Bye!
I did enjoy that. Or I found it interesting at the... Oh wow, I was not expecting there to pull up chapters. Anyway, I find the way she thinks is interesting and pretty accurate for how I've seen things. Whether it's accurate for everyone, different matter entirely, so I cannot state. But I do find it pretty accurate. And according to the views on this, 257,000 likes versus 6.4k thousand dislikes. That's a pretty good ratio. And 3.8 million views. No one is saying women don't have any problems, but at least your problems are taken seriously, Bill Burr. I do remember that statement, and I remember finding that funny, as well as kind of sad, because Bill Burr is probably pretty accurate. It's crazy that there are actually people out there who are all for men. Kicking the bucket makes me extremely sad. I agree. Yeah. Maybe men just aren't good people. I'm lonely because I work 70 hours a week to keep my house for my daughter and ex-wife when she went to find a boyfriend while I was at work. My daughter is the only reason why I'm still here. That's sad. They're not going to like this one on Twitter. No, probably not. Men have loneliness issues, then don't rape. I feel like there's two different conversations going on. So, it looks like most of these are guys speaking in here. I can't really see any females, so I don't know how they responded to this particular statement. But that's why we have the next video in the series, which was Men Deserve to Be Lonely, is what it's called. So, yeah.